Draw Scary Godmother and Aloysius fishes, which you can't see here, because it's very light for just me seeing it, but it doesn't show up for the camera probably very well. Yeah, so I just better start painting. Kind of at the beach in the water, and Aloysius is taking a selfie. So he's holding up a big shell, because when you're underwater, you can't take photos, but you can capture sounds in a shell of your friends and then like play them back later.
Oh yeah.
So these are Scary Godmother characters, so if you're expecting Beasts of Burden or Wonder Woman or Sandman or something, that's a different demo.
Is there any way to turn the lights down a little bit? Because
I bet you could see the screen better.
we can maybe see it.
So what I'm going to be working with today is my regular old travel-y paint tray, my grandma glasses, washcloth from the hotel, because that's where I get all my best travel paint stuff, and then ice cold water for the convention to dip my brush in. And hopefully I'll be able to finish this in time. So, because this is actually watching paint dry, and I will try and be explaining what I do while I do it, that can kind of get boring. So I'm hoping that people will ask me questions, and we will be able to tell stories and make it more amusing. So, oh, look how everyone looks really cool in the dark. I have to take a picture. Y'all don't mind being on Instagram, do you?
No.
So you know, you're like, hey, Jill brought us donuts, but she didn't eat any donuts. What's wrong with them? It's not that. It's that I had cake for breakfast and at midnight last
Strawberry.
night. That's right.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take a picture. Stupid Instagram. Square format. Should I wait 2 minutes? Okay, I'll wait 2 minutes.
Yes, it is. Let's see if she does it now. She'll be able to finish it in time. Those extra 2 minutes of work.
Sorry. I'm telling someone I'm doing this. Okay, like, you can't see that there's anything on this paper right now, but I promise you there is. Oh, okay. I see. Video goes a certain video way. But the cord only goes so far. Okay. Like all good watercolor paintings, you work from back to front. Because there's not much background on this illustration, because it's more of just figures, we're going to throw a little blue sky in behind Scary Godmother. When you do watercolor, you're always trying to work back to front. That's what my teacher told me, and that's what I'm telling you. Maybe other people can work the other way, but I mean, it's traditional to do the background before you head into any of the detailed stuff in the foreground. Sometimes I don't follow that rule all the time, but because I'm trying to be a good example right now, I better do it. So thank you for coming out so early on a Thursday morning. Okay. Well, that's right, we're not officially starting, because that's right, I realized there's a thing that has to happen.
Let
I
me
also
get this
dance like this.
Let me just get this out of the way, and I will turn it over to the
real star here. My name's Adam Neese. I'm with Comic-Con International. I'm the assistant to the director of programming, and I'm here to introduce Jill Thompson today. Of course, the Eisner Award. Eisner Award-winning creator of the Scary Grandmother, also known for her work on Godmother. I'm sorry. This is the first of many of these I have to do. If that's the only mistake I make.
Please make sure you butcher someone else.
I will. Also known for the Sandman, Wonder Woman, Beast of Burden, and her contributions to comic arts. I'm here to present her with an Inkpot Award today.
Have you stand up and pose?
Wow, this shows getting
Have you
better.
stand up? There you go. Excellent again. And one more time, please. Thank you.
I am, well, for the most part, speechless. You all know that I will obviously get my speech back really fast, but oh my God. Wow. Do you know what other people have gotten this?
Yep.
It's about time.
Right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
You can't even paint now.
I always have to do that. This could be a weapon too. So the second thought goes back. All my Forteza Spartans back in Chicago will be like, of course, the second thing we think of is, how can I use this to hurt someone? Or defend the weak. You know, that's one of the things, like, how can I protect someone with this? It's like, yep. Right in the elbow, and then gouge your mind. Wow. This.
Oh, it's quite hefty.
Sorry, I jumped the gun. Somebody tweet that, right? I can't. I gotta. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm laying down the background of an illustration that comes from someone who's making contributions to the comic arts. She needs her glasses so she can make pretty contributions to the comic arts and not horrible contributions to the comic arts. So now is the time I would like to be able to open up the floor to any kind of question you like.
Do you ever mask off your artwork, or do you usually just do it by hand?
The question is, do I ever mask off my artwork, or do I just do it by hand? I have I tape off the edges of my panels. If this was a comic book page, I rule everything out, I draw it, then I cut tape and tape around things so it has crisp edge. But I do not do well with masking fluids at all, like traditional watercolor masking liquids. I have many jars of them, and I believe all of their claims that you can put this on the paper and then lift it up without it attaching to the paper or sticking to the paper. But I always seem to be the exception to whatever rule they're talking about. Or if I have to pull something up, or the paint sometimes bleeds underneath.
Yeah.
And I've tried to tape it off as well, like if I wanted to do a full moon and I wanted to be like stark white. So I put a bunch of tape around and I tried to cut it to the area. I end up cutting into the paper, so I just start painting around it. It seems to
Your
work best
edges
for
are
me.
really crisp for someone that's doing it by hand.
I'm very accustomed to it. And the thing is I realize I'm more accustomed to painting now than I am to using a pencil. So anytime I have to do anything that's just like a pen and ink, or let's see, like a pencil drawing, like I can sketch and stuff with a pencil, but to do something really shaded, like I follow this amazing artist on Instagram whose Instagram name is Simple Simon, and he just uses like a colored pencil, and he kind of does either portraits or caricatures, but with a colored paper and just shading of one pencil. And I've been able to do that in the past. It's just that I'm so rusty that I can't do it. And every time I try, it takes me 50 times longer than it would take for me to lay down a watercolor wash and maybe add some pencil to it. So I'm kind of evolving in what I'm comfortable doing. Okay, so hold on for a second. I'm gonna dry all this up. I got my little travel umbrella. I have a travel umbrella too, but I have my travel hair dryer. I use this every day. So when I do a comic book page, it takes me about 14 hours to finish one page. I used to be able to pull one off in one day, but for some reason they've become a lot more elaborate over the years. And it's a lot of this. It's a lot of put a color down, wash it, now well, at home, everything's over this way. Wash everything out, put different colors down, wash it out, has to dry before you can go back into it. So I'm doing this thousands of times a day and changing colors. I can't just click on the change of color like I've seen my amazing friends that do digital work. But, you know, hopefully, I mean, I guess the thing is I'm not drawing less things, I'm drawing more things, so that's good for everybody. And this is like it's a printmaking paper. It's a new paper that I got, which I kind of like. I've been working on it for a while for sketches. Where's the name of it? It's like for all wet media. So, look, haha. Brought a piece of colored paper thinking that I was going to use this colored pencil and a white pencil. It's empty. So it might take me longer, but I have a stack of pages at home right now for something I'm working on. It's literally this high, and I'm this many pages away from being done with it. And I have immense satisfaction that I have like 12 pounds of work. Next question?
Could you tilt the paper a little because the way the light's on right now, we can't see the pencil sketch at all.
Well, the pencil sketch is way too light for you to see it.
Okay.
If you want to come up here and take a look. Because I can show you. This is how, like, I sketch out very lightly before I paint, but I don't want to take the time to do that. I'd rather do the time painting.
Okay.
So, like, this is really light. I would eventually get it to be this dark, which still might not show up on the
It's kinda
screen
showing
at this
up.
I can
point.
see a little bit of it.
Okay, here, let me do this. Does everybody else want to? I will take a picture and I'll Instagram it. From up here, because there's the light. Unless I cast a shadow on it, which you still might not be able to see it, but it won't be right now. Oh yeah, you kind of can, so. Later, you'll be able to see, hey, that's what it was while she was doing it. Okay, so the next thing I do is I lay down some, like, because both Aloysius and Scary Godmother are this great sap green gouache that I use. Because she has just like a light green tinge to her, I lay down what I consider like this little shadowy skin tone. Oh, still not, I don't see it so well. So it's going to be light. So I do this for all of the tones. I lay down like, and they're, for the most part with the work that I do, I don't do a lot of mixing of color. You know, especially with Scary Godmother, it's pretty straight out of the tube. There's a little bit of mixing. Beasts of Burden, a lot more actual painterly mixing, but she's great. You know, she's really bright, so it's just kind of values of stuff. So on her hat, she also has the same green, but this will be laid down a little darker. Oh, hey, it's better. It's nice. So every time I do something like this, it's like I try and lay down all of the one color that I'm using wherever it is that I'm using it on the page. So this makes it a lot less of a true painting style. Mike Mignola once said that I draw comics with paint, and I kind of do the old-fashioned four-color comic process by hand, because me. And it's like, what would be more difficult than having this done with 3 different people? Well, I could do all of it by myself. You mean the hand coloring separation part? Well, yeah, I probably can kind of do a process like that. So it's kind of what I do. So I lay down all the colors that are the same. Like sometimes I can go in and I give it like a little bit of a different effect. And then once this is dry, then I go in with an outline. That is a darker version of the color that we're using. Okay, Aloysius needs to be a little bit more murky. So in my paint palette, I've got this green, but then I've got a little bit of red left over, and that's a complementary color to green. So that'll muddy down my color without making it look black. So it'll give it more of an olive color instead of the green that comes out. And of course, this belly is lighter. I forget that. Pick that up, I lift it up with some water. A question about something other than this paint? Yes?
How did you first meet Neil Gaiman?
How did I first meet Neil Gaiman? Well, okay. Are there kids around? Yes. Okay, they're old enough. I met him at this convention. I was a big fan of Sandman. I had been working on Wonder Woman. I still was working on Wonder Woman a long, long time ago. Okay, I realize I'm talking into this guy, not the microphone. So it was at this convention. I was in the artist alley. I had been sketching and sketching and sketching all day. In fact, I also met Lee Bermejo, the amazing artist Lee Bermejo, at this convention. He was a child. And he came up because he liked my work. Well, he wasn't a complete child. He was just like, kind of fresh into his like late teen or like maybe he was 20 or something. Maybe not even. Maybe he was. Oh God, I think he was like 17. I'm old. So I was drawing, and doing lots of sketch requests. And sometimes when you are drawing as an artist in the artist alley for a living, you are asked to do some unusual sketch requests, or perhaps some more provocative sketch requests. Okay, so dude asked me to draw a death naked, and I thought, naked money is probably just as good as clothed money, but I'm not going to give this guy the satisfaction of what he wants. I'm a graduate of the American Academy of Art. I'm going to give him a life drawing. I'm going to give him a nude, not a naked drawing. This is not going to be a picture that he's going to go, woo, woo, woo. This is going to be a picture like you go, this is a museum type of picture. Where this lovely lady is technically naked, but we are not going to see anything. So I did this nice drawing. Well, he took it straight to Neil Gaiman. Which I didn't know at all. And then, so I get the chance to go over to the DC Comics table because I'm working on Wonder Woman and I'm going to be signing there. And Karen Berger introduces me to Neil Gaiman, and I, of course, fangirl out and start to sweat profusely. And he looks up at me because he's at the table and I'm going to come around the table, and he says, "Oh, Jill Thompson. I just saw the most lovely drawing of death you did in the nude." And I was mortified. But then I was also happy that he said in the nude and not naked. So it meant that I got my point across. And that's how I met him. Apparently, he likes to say that that's the reason I started to draw Sandman. So if so, thanks to Kim Metzger. But my editor said for months before, when he would be in the office, he would ask, was I done working on Sandman? Because he had a story arc that he would like. me to draw on Sandman. And my previous editor, not Dan Thorsland, but the wonderful Tom Heyer, who I love, apparently was just saying, no, she's still under contract, instead of, wow, I think she would be great on Sandman. Let me see if I can switch her contract over, which is what Dan Thorsland did. Like the first time he ever saw that Neil was asking about me, he immediately said, he goes, you'd be much better on this book. He goes, I think this book is like, it'd be a really good fit for you, and let's get you on that. Instead of, oh no, she still has several issues of this to draw. So I like to think that Neil had been interested in my art before he saw the lovely drawing of death, but maybe that was the thing that really clinched it for him. And that's how I met Neil Gaiman. And he's one of my very best friends. Another question?
Did you enjoy doing your death mangas? And you're going to do any more? Any more mangas?
I will not be doing any more mangas. Sorry, Shelly. The death manga was very, I loved it. In fact, every once in a while I pull it out and read it, and it's like I forgot that I did a lot of it, so it's kind of brand new story to me. And I'm also proud, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. That was really good. But it was really, really hard to do all the parts. And I was hoping when they did that they would do another, they would have someone else working on other ones at the same time, because, you know, usually those mangas are done not only by a main artist, but like 5 other people. There's like a background person and a person that does all the lettering. I was doing all the jobs. This was again once of the situation. I mean, I like doing all the jobs because I like, as we can tell by the way I took over this panel, I like to lead. It's my dancing style. Is like, no, Jill, the man has to lead. I said, well, he better hurry up and start doing it. That's what I have to do. I like to do all the parts, but it takes a long time. And truthfully, it injured my, I got tendonitis from it, which I don't, knock particle board. I don't have really very much anymore, but I have a lot of problems with stuff in my shoulder and my arm from drawing, which I try and deal with. But inking all of the hair, and that was really it. It was all this repetitive motion of making the Sandman hair, the manga hair, like because 190 pages, and I would say at like the halfway mark is when I started getting problems, and I would go to the chiropractor and have him work on my hand and go to the acupuncturist, and then come back and work on comics some more. I just, you know, I like the style that I did it in. It's just that it takes so very long. But I guess everything I do right now takes so very long. I might do something in the style, but I think, you know, right now I prefer to just continue to expand the style that I'm doing and make great strides. Because look. I have to make great accomplishments in comic arts. So while I would like it, and I enjoy very much manga, and I have incorporated a lot of manga stuff into my own storytelling, like a lot of the way that shoujo manga focuses on layout and pacing. I've taken on, because I've always liked it, but when I had to study it for that project, I really learned a lot. So, you know, there will be qualities of it in stuff I do, but probably not a full-blown other manga story. So, I guess the moral of that story is, if you're interested in any of those pages, they will be the only ones that are around that look like that. So maybe if you want to buy some of those, you should buy them. Before I start thinking, maybe I should keep those. But yeah, probably won't be another manga. But you never know. I mean, it probably, if there is, it probably won't be 192 pages. Because I'm too old. Yes?
I don't know if I missed it, but are we going to see any more Beasts of Burden?
Yes, we are.
Oh, good.
That is the other thing I'm horribly late on is Beasts of Burden. But rest assured, there's other story that's happening. Yes, you will weep Sorry, because every time I say, Evan, can you just write a story where the dogs go to dog beach? You know, the beach where people take their dogs? And he's like, yeah, okay. And then I get a story where, like, I'm crying by the end of reading. I was like, Evan, this is not the dog beach story. He's, yeah, okay, I know, but I was thinking about this. So yeah, it's coming. It's just because it's been taking me a long time to finish the project that I'm working on right now. But like I said, there's this much left.
So part 2, just real quick, is the way you're doing this right now.
Yeah.
Did you do that also for any of your beasts of burden?
This is how I do stuff for beasts of burden. Everything.
Everything.
Except that I have a giant paint tray that sits on this side of me, and the pages are taped off, and things look more, realistic. Sometimes there's a limit. I mean, not realistic because it's not like Alex Ross is drawing the dogs and cats in there. But compared to the Scary Godmother style, you look at Beast of Burden, and they come off as more realistic. To me, I always categorize Beast of Burden as Lady and the Tramp meets Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Because both of those things make me cry. Every once in a while, I'll go back and rewatch Lady and the Tramp, and I know that Tramp does not get taken to the pound all the way, and I know Trusty doesn't die, but every time Trusty goes to save Tramp, I'm surprised I'm not crying right now, because I usually can't even talk about that without getting the horrible lump in my throat, because he's going to sacrifice it, and he's oh. Even when Lady realizes that there's a baby and maybe she's not going to get as much love before, I was like, how could you do that to that dog? You horrible Victorian people. I also cry at the IKEA lamp that gets left out. And I'm not even on a hormone thing. This is me naturally. I believe it's, when the guy says, it's just a lamp. I'm like, I know, but you left it in the rain. It was doing its job for you. You replaced it with a lamp and put it right in the window. Your second lamp. First lamp did so much for you. Put you through college. Yes, we're there.
I'm sure this will be just like your Neil Gaiman story, but how did you meet CM Punk?
It's not like my totally different naked picture. No. Oh wait, that sounded really bad. It was through Twitter. Punk was not on Twitter, but my friend Joanne Starr, who is hilarious, she's around this convention. She was friends with Punk. She was friends with a lot of wrestlers. But like when they were coming up, like this dude used to sleep on her couch. It's like total indie wrestling stuff. Her father was a fan of mine, so when she was like a Sandman fan, so she kind of grew up with my art around, and she used to come to this convention when she was little to and her dad was a fan, so she knew of me, and so one day I'm on Twitter and Joanne reaches out to me and she said, hey, I'm here with CM Punk and he wants you to paint a mural in his bathroom. And I texted her back and said, really? I was like, what? She goes, no, I'm not kidding you. And she's like, I'm standing here and he wants, I told him I know you and he wants you to paint something a mural in his bathroom. How big is his bathroom? And she goes, and then she put us in touch with each other and we just started texting each other and then met up and started hanging out, and I still have never painted his bathroom. But also I haven't talked to him in a long time. It's like, he's kind of incommunicado, like everyone's, like I can give him a text and get like one word back, but like we don't hang out anymore, unfortunately. But, I will fly to Vegas to see him fight. But I met him, through somebody else. But was a huge fan, because if you ask me what's my favorite wrestling match ever, CM Punk versus Samoa Joe, right before he left, Ring of Honor at Chicago Ridge Field House. Oh my God, 60 minutes of the most intense, amazing match ever. Still my favorite. Oh. Yes?
Sandman and Invisibles, and it was when I was in my early 20s.
conversation told me to find someone with money and marry him, so that he can support you while you pursue your interest in writing and comics, which is what exactly she did.
And what's her famous novel?
She even told me, like, I told her where I live. She's like, well, Irvine's good. It was so good for finding guys. And I couldn't believe she was telling me this, but I didn't want to be rude, so I just nodded my head. Okay, thank you. But my question for you is, do you have any advice for any young women who are interested in getting in this industry who don't really see the need or desire to marry someone just
First of all, there are very few people in this industry that you can marry to get rich. And it's not an industry that everybody gets rich in. It's an industry where I'm hoping that changes because, I mean, you do a lot of amazing creative things, and the amount of work and love and effort that you put in them doesn't always pay off monetarily. Advice on how to become a writer. No, I'm not like 100% a writer. I'm kind of a do everything kind of person, so I don't know how to focus on just one thing. So I'm going to try and apply that just to what I did, and I'm assuming it will have to work the same way. Write to amuse yourself first. Write something you really love and believe in. Don't sit down and say, I'm going to try and write the next cool horror story that takes place in a barn, unless you suddenly have that idea. Because if you, I don't know, I can always think of the exception to the rule. Because now that I said that, it's like, huh, what would I do with that? But I found everything that I've been most successful at has been stuff that I did because I wanted to do it. And then, like Scary Godmother, it's for kids, but I did it to amuse myself and be accessible to kids. Because I had been working on everything I'd been working on at Vertigo, like The Invisibles, like Seekers into the Mystery, or whatever, was adult in theme. You know, it wasn't like Tim Vigil type of graphic adult in theme. It was, you know, there were all adult situations happening in it. But whenever, you know, this was before convention became something like this, right? That I could go to the grocery store before I left to come here and go, I'm going to Comic-Con, and the cashier would go, oh my God, I've always wanted to go there. You know, this used to not happen. It was a situation where I was drawing comics, my friends thought it was cool. I would sometimes draw them in the comics, but if I had a comic around, or if I brought comics over to show some of my friends at a barbecue or whatever, they'd go grab the Seekers into the Mystery and go, you know, look at it, and then suddenly it would disappear, and I'd go, hey, where's the comic I gave you? Oh, I gave it to so-and-so's kid. It's like, what? How old are they? Are they 17? No, they're 8. It's like, oh, you have to get it back. It's like, what? That's a story about a man who realizes that he was molested as a child, and the first page has masturbation on it. Oh, sorry, kids. Oh, jeez, there's kids. And they're like, it's a comic. And I go, comics aren't for kids. And then I realized I was in kind of a situation at the time that comics weren't for kids anymore. We were so much trying to shift our focus to prove to everybody that comics are a really viable medium to tell every story.
Right.
That we forgot that you need a gateway, like for reading, just like you need cool material in comics for all reading levels and all genres and all peoples, instead of just, you know, these comics are really adult and gritty and cool. So when I created Scary Godmother, it wasn't like I sat down and decided, I am now going to create a story that's about, you know, a story for kids, blah, blah, blah. I wanted to create something that I liked and loved, that I could hand to someone of any age. So it wasn't necessarily that I wanted it to be something that was specifically for kids, because I would say a lot of, like, and when we did our play and when we did the TV show, I was, I was making myself laugh before I did anything else. So I think if you're going to be writing, write something you're passionate about. Be really good at it as far as, like be self-critical and know like, oh gosh, this sentence sounds like Jill is talking for 55 minutes without a breath or a pause. That's a terrible run-on sentence. We don't want to subject anybody to that. So you have to be able to be critical the same way that I can look at art, even if I've worked on it all day and go, wow, I really like this when I started and I messed it up and now I have to do it over because there is no layers button on my on my paint tray like other people can have. I have to just tear it up and go on to the next page and then come back to it. And I think you'll find you have success there because it'll be something that's got you in it and your soul and your heart in it. You may have to do something else while you're first starting because writing is a really hard thing. It's a hard thing to get anybody to look at even because I can show you something and immediately people will say, okay, I can use this or I can't use this. Even if it's a pitch for something, that's time. Someone has to sit down and read it and they'll think, oh, I'll get to this, and they may set it aside and not look at it. I know that there's a lot of interesting ways online that people have been getting their writing notes. Just start publishing bits of their novel or a short story. Be willing to give people a taste of it the same way that I can. That's more of the equivalent of me being able to show a portfolio. And that's the only advice I can give. And I recommend you do whatever you can to make sure that you're amazingly self-sufficient and you don't need anyone to be married to support you. But if you're in a good marriage, you'll be both extremely happy and both support each other because that's what people who love each other do instead of trap somebody so that you can take care of them. Ugh, what terrible advice.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Behind the projector.
It seems like a really nicely versatile brush. Do you use that for the entire piece?
This is a brand new one. It is a good one. It's a synthetic. It says a fake white sable by Robert Simmons. I go through about, okay, these are my travel brushes. So I have this is a number 10 and this is a number 6. But as much as I baby these two, they're kind of getting used up and I don't get the right type of point that I want anymore. And I pick up a lot of these because this is a nice smooth paper surface, but the paper that I've usually been using is it's got a bit more of a tooth to it. And I go through a lot of brushes on a project. Maybe I can, I usually buy a new set that has a good point before I start something new because then I can go in and get details. It also depends on the type of paper. But the project I'm working on right now, I think I've gone through about 50 to 60 brushes. Yeah, it gets expensive. If I could think about how much the paper that I use also costs $60 for 12 sheets. And then these brushes, I go and buy $200 worth of brushes at a shot. And then have them for however long they last. And I have a lot of cups of brushes out next to my drawing table because I rotate them all out. So the ones that don't have a really good point anymore for detail are things that I use to lay down washes or medium points of stuff. And then I have my really nice, these are for all the outlining or the inking as it were. Because technically what I do is I lay down my medium tone and my other tones for things. And when all that's dry, I go back in and then ink around it in a color that's a different value of the same color. So it would be I'm going to go around Aloysius here eventually in a dark green. So it's not black as if it would be on a regular inked comic page, but sometimes it gives that illusion. So all the purple stuff on Scary Godmother gets outlined in a darker violet, and brown things in dark brown, and so on. So. It also, another thing that takes a lot longer because I can't just go through and use one color around the outline of everything. But yeah, this is a pretty it's real springy, this brush. It's brand new, so it's full of life. I haven't used it all up yet. Because I couldn't come here with crappy brushes, because then I'd be like, that's not so good. She was like, that wasn't worth watching. In the back. How many? 15? Oh, shut up. Shut up and paint. Everyone who got a painting commission from me today was like, oh no, look how slow she is. She won't shut up. I'm never going to get that thing. I feel like sometimes I should just do what Ben Temple-Smith is doing and then go over to like the hotel and sit down and say, okay, we're going to sit here all day. Let's all have a drink. You can go back to the convention whenever you want, but I'm going to sit here and paint. And you guys can watch, because it's a lot easier than sitting in this the artists. Has anyone been over to the artist alley to see me yet? I'm in HH. It's like at the very end of this whole building, and I am 4 feet away from the wall. So, and it's the smallest table in the whole world. So it's anybody that comes to see me, it looks like I have a giant crowd, which is good. But you know, it's kind of not conducive for people being able to hang about and watch. So it would kind of be cool to just sit someplace where everyone could look over my shoulder and we could keep talking and asking questions. Because I want to finish this and give this to somebody. Is Rachel here from yesterday? She said she was my biggest fan. No, she said she was going to dress up as Scary Gobbler. And like your hat caught me for a second, and then I went, that's not the right person under that hat. I mean, it is the right person under that hat, but not the person I expected under that hat. So here I'm going kind of around Aloysius's belly to do like drawing details. Started early and still I couldn't get it done. Ooh, what's that? Should have shut that off. It's like I go through after I lay down the big wash, and then I do any shadow side that there is, and then I let that dry. Oh, I brought the hair dryer. Here I'm not like making anything go any faster because I'm not bringing the hair. I'm not doing anything with the hair dryer. Anything else? Well, because I'm not looking up all the time. Just shout something out.
Jill, I have a question.
Yes?
Did you have a favorite of the Vertigo characters that you drew? Any favorites?
You mean out of Sandman or everybody?
Everybody, Black Orchid.
Well, I don't know. The Sandman characters were my favorite. What else did I enjoy doing over there? I enjoy everything. I like the Invisibles. I love Lord Fanny.
That was a good
She's
series.
kind of my favorite. I liked working on that. I have to say, I didn't always understand what was going on in the Invisibles. That's not Grant's fault. That's my fault. But when I was working on it, it was always interesting because I would learn something every issue that I worked on it, because there was always something I would have to reference because I didn't know anything about I'd say Dan Brown should have gotten sued, or should have lost the lawsuit that was brought against him because of that the Vinci Code. Because I had to read a whole book called Holy Blood, Holy Grail to work on one part of the Invisibles, which was all about the whole Grail lineage and Rennes le Chateau, and those guys. That was way back in the 90s, so it's like, sorry Dan Brown, your thing came out. You read this book too, because when I saw the ad for it, I was like, he read that same book Grant had me read. To draw some things for the comic, it was like, I couldn't grab my phone and just like, hey, I have to look for what this is. It was, I would go to the library I would start looking up in the card catalog the thing that Grant had referenced, and then hope the book that I found had pictures, so I could draw it. And that's, my friends, how we did comics back in the old days. And where was Grant when he would send me these things, like through the fax? He was on a mountain in Tibet, and then he would go, "Oh, I saw the most interesting, shadow puppet thing in the mountain in Tibet. I'm going to put that in the Invisibles. I'll send you a reference." "No, you're not. You're on a mountain in Tibet." And I fell for that several times. And the reference never would come, and I'd be like, "Stuart, I'm waiting for a reference." He goes, "Grant's like in, he's in an ashram somewhere." And I'm like, "What?" He said he was going to send a reference. He goes, "You're going to have to find all this reference yourself." He's never sending it. And then sometimes he would. But I was really used to, when I worked on Sandman, Neil would always just include it with it, or tell me exactly what it was. But Grant would be like, "You can find it, don't worry." Just because you just saw this cool thing happening in another part of the world, you should take a picture of that and develop it and send it over to me so I can finish what I'm working on. I'd like to work with him again, though. That would be very cool. Oh, and the other thing that I really liked working on at Vertigo was Finals with Will Piper. That was amazingly fun. I like satire, I like dark comedy, and both Will and I are quite shocked that the world has turned out a lot kind of crazier and worse than the evil things that we thought of that would just happen based on the way humanity was going. So we're going to try and put our prognostication powers towards, good. Like the next finals will be all the, no one's fracking and they're cleaning up the environment. California's got water. Because we might be magic, we don't know.
How do you keep the watercolor from running?
How do I keep the watercolor from running? You mean on this page or in the paint tray? On the page? Well, it soaks up kind of fast, especially on this paper. I don't have a lot of water in it right now, this watercolor. So that helps as well. It's, if I had a lot more water, I could go back into it. Like, let me see. So here, put some water down. And then I can let it bleed. Kind of like I could make a little modelly effect, like he has scales there.
You can't see.
Oh,
Thank you.
sorry. I'll do it again. I can pull into it with some water. Sometimes it might be hard to see.
When you're working on a project, are you painting individual panels and then sending them, or are you going off a whole page?
I do a whole page. If you come to my table in Artist Alley, I have some originals. I have a lot of originals with me, but I have fully painted ones. So you'll be able to see the fact that it's like I do it on a large size paper. I measure it off to the 10 by 15 standard comic book size, sketch it out in pencil, tape it off, tighten up, I lay out the lettering on it really lightly, scan it, so the letterer then knows where I would like things to be. And because I don't know how to do any lettering yet. I have a font that's my handwriting, but I haven't, I usually have somebody do that for me because I don't have the time to figure out how to do it. Then, excuse me. After I scan that so the letterer knows where stuff goes, then I erase the lettering, tighten up the pencils, tape it off, cut the tape, and then I start painting. And after that point is when it takes me like 10 to 15 hours usually to finish whatever illustrations are on there. And like I said, sometimes I screw up and then I have to do the whole thing over. Or if I'm lucky, if I screw up, there might be a chance to just cut one panel out, do a patch for it, I've done a patch for Beast of Burden, not because I screwed up, but after I turned it in, like Evan wanted, you know, something to look different, so I just cut a panel the same size, scanned that in, and then in production, they were able, you know, to piece that together. In the old days, they used to just glue right over it with a stat. I was explaining this to somebody else on one of my black and white pages of Invisibles that I have at my table. There's little kind of tan marks all over it, and that's where the lettering part that was statted on there fell off. There's only one little word thing that's left. It just says bad.
So the process you're talking about laying down one color, would you do that for a panel or would you do that for the whole?
I do it for the whole page as much as I can. Like if there's blue skies throughout, I try and lay down all the sky everywhere around everything, or whatever the color might be. If it's a common color that's on the page. Because they're trying to keep it really painterly instead of paint by number-ish, which this process does kind of become. It is like a giant paint by numbers without the numbers.
I have a question. So,
Please ask it.
I really like doing paintings. Do you have any tips for me using like watercolors?
Start with one color. Master one color before you move on to full color. That's traditional way of learning because it helps you learn how to handle the medium and you get a good sense of value going. Because when there's a lot of colors, people tend to focus on the colors that are in there, and then they all become the same value, and then everything flattens out or gets muddy. Does that say 1 or 5? 5. Okay. Obviously, I can talk faster than I can paint, so more questions. So I would say like do one color first, really master it. Add another color. Master that, because you can get a really cool special effect with, or not a special effect, but almost a full color effect with 2 or 3 colors. A limited palette is a really good thing. It's not a bad thing. Like sometimes the more colors you add, the worse something gets versus like being really great. So right there, I screwed up.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Shut up.
What if you aren't able to purchase the special paper?
You mean watercolor paper?
Yes.
You really should be working on watercolor paper. I can't think of anything to tell you other than that because like this is a multimedia paper for wet media. It's not acting exactly like watercolor paper, but it can handle the water. Like if you try and do it in like one of the sketchbooks that people might have here at the convention to get sketches in, that's only meant for pencil, maybe some pen and ink if you're lucky, but a really wet media will start absorbing into that paper, make it ripple, or it might start to shred because it doesn't have the type of cotton content that, or whatever else that they're using to make the paper out of, so it won't be able to handle the stuff that's in, that you're putting on it, and you're not going to be able to get the effect you want. So you will have to, you can get other board, like you can use board, like any kind of weird board and put gesso on it, and that will give you a painting surface that you could put on cardboard even sometimes. But that'll give you then a completely different type of watercolor effect than what I'm doing here. But you kind of need to invest in the right materials if you want to get a good result.
Has watercolor always been your medium, or you kind of grown into it?
Before I went to art school, I had never picked up watercolor in my entire life. I really mostly never did anything other than work with a number 2 pencil with a pink eraser on the top of it, and maybe a marker. I would copy all my comics in Bic pen, you know, like I remember one of the first ones I copied was Star Wars Howard Chaykin adaptation of the first Star Wars, and I was drawing space by filling in on notebook paper around stars and galaxies slowly on my bed, while
That's where
watching
the masking
horror movies.
technique came in.
It's like I'm not that patient anymore. But it's I had to do an assignment in it, and my fundamentals teacher said this would be the hardest thing we ever do. He had set still life set up. We were always going to have to do still life. This is where they first introduced you to how to work with one color. So it's like you had to choose a color, and my fundamentals teacher liked to teach you all of the lessons the hard way, like let you screw up, and then you had the learning lesson from that. What you should do if you're learning, let me tell you that, when you're going to start doing watercolor, pick a really dark color, a sepia, a really dark indigo, black, something like that, because then